Hey, you're about to listen to an older episode of the Volunteer Youth Worker podcast. This is a podcast that Sid Coop, Jason Ballard, and myself, Jeremy McDonald, started back in 2018 to answer the practical questions that you're asking in your youth ministry. But lots has changed since we started it in 2018. We've changed the name. We're doing new and different events and lots of other things. The thing that hasn't changed, though, is the content you're about to listen to, we think is still really valuable. But if you notice that some of the things we're talking about are obviously a little bit older, that is okay. You can always head to youthworker.community to stay up to date with what's happening currently right now here in 2024, and you can track along with us there. We'd love to see you. But enjoy this episode. Welcome back to the Youth Ministry Team Podcast, episode 108. And it is so wonderful to have you here. Today's conversation is someone that I got to have with a couple of guys from Power to Change. And the exciting thing about Power to Change is that they're an organization in our country of Canada in particular that is really thoughtful when it comes to helping the faith of the next generation post high school. And so as you're going to find out from Power to Change students, they've got a number of different things. We got a ton of links in the show notes from this episode, but they're all about thinking through grade 12 students as they launch into their life post high school. Now, if you're listening and you are a small group leader of somebody that's not in grade 12, the great news is that all of these ideas, I think, still apply. I think, honestly, some of the things that they're going to chat about, you can process it to when you've got a student who's moving away from your group. You know, maybe they're moving to a different town or different city. You can apply some of these same types of things. And then, hopefully, the ministry that you're a part of, you can help bring in this kind of culture where we're thoughtful when it comes to graduating students out of our program, because we recognize and know that there's a massive challenge with students falling away from faith after they graduate from high school. Now, one of the cool things before we get into today's conversation is that Rolf, who is one of the guys that I'm going to interview, actually has some details on a scholarship. And so want to jump into that conversation, because if you've got grade 12 students, you're going to want to hear all about this.
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty excited too. A donor with a foundation approached us and had this kind of scholarship idea, and we went back and forth. And so we're piloting the idea both in Southern Ontario and in the West just this year, trying it out. And so Southern Ontario, we're really praying for 300 students to fill in this scholarship. And so we hope it's a win-win, that students are being asked some questions about their transition to post-secondary. And hopefully we can, we're excited to dish out 19 different awards to students that are heading to post-secondary in Southern Ontario. And the Impact Award, they're hoping to bless a ton of students as well, more through, I guess, giving money to the church to send the student well.
Well, and so that's what we want to get the word out here. We want to make sure that you as youth workers know that you've got to hand this off to your youth workers, because the closing date's coming up, and for students to know that they can get free money, scholarship money, will be fantastic. So we'll drop that link in the show notes. Rolf, anything else that they need to know about getting their students to apply to this?
It's not, it's a very low barrier to entry. And so even if you're not totally sure where your student's at in terms of the big questions of faith and, go ahead and apply. And even just, I think the point of applying and inviting kind of the youth leader to give a reference. I think even that step alone will be a blessing. And as part of that, we want to bless them as they, have an opportunity to get connected to Power to Change. We'll give them opportunities to do so, and even some money towards a fall conference that they can check out in a new Christian community. So everybody's a winner.
Everybody's a winner. Thanks so much, you guys, for doing that. Power to Change is such a cool organization. We're grateful for the work.
Yeah, we're super. I mean, connecting with youth leaders and just seeing the hard work and their investment into youth, and we know it hasn't been an easy gig. So it's super fun to be able to work together with you guys.
All right, let's jump into our full conversation I got to have with Rolf and Dan from Power to Change students.
Welcome to the Youth Ministry Team Podcast. Youth ministries rise and fall on the team of volunteers. So this podcast is for the whole team. Join the conversation as we tackle the practical questions you're asking so you can be encouraged and equipped as you head into your role in your youth ministry this week.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Youth Ministry Team Podcast, and today's very special conversation with two fantastic guests, new friends that we've been chatting with over the last little while about what I think is going to be really helpful for all of us in ministry, but in particular, as you think about ministering to students that are a little bit older, grade 11, grade 12, thinking about what they're moving on to next. And so I've got Dan and Rolf here. Would love for you guys to introduce yourselves to our audience, fill them in on which organization you work for, and a little bit about yourself as we get started.
Sure. Yeah, my name's Rolf, working with Power to Change students here in Southern Ontario, but servicing all of Canada. I've been having a chance. I was involved as a student and then ended up joining staff, and that's been about 15 years. So when I think about something that God has used to shape my life, I definitely think of those first couple of years that I was involved in student ministry on campus. I went to the University of Waterloo, and so I feel really fortunate and passionate to be able to encourage others to get connected.
Yeah, it's amazing. Dan, why don't you tell us about yourself and then also fill us in on what Power to Change actually is, because there's lots of people that have no idea in terms of what that is as an organization.
Sure. Yeah, my name's Dan. I live in Guelph, Ontario. I've been here for 10 years, and I've been on staff with Power to Change, including a little stint in East Asia for 13 years. And I currently serve as the National Campus Strategies Director. And so I'm overseeing a bunch of our ministries across our beloved nation. And Power to Change, we are a non-denominational Christian missions organization that helps students discover Jesus. We're at our core, we're basically a community of believers who help every student walk closer to Jesus and experience life in Him. And you'll find us at pretty much every major university in the country, and some of the minor ones as well.
Yeah. So when you say, so Power to Change is a large organization in terms of there's a number of different entities to it. Is that fair to say? Like you guys are connected with more than just your work on university campuses?
Yeah, that's right. So there's Power to Change, the kind of umbrella organization. Our headquarters is in Langley, BC, and there's a whole bunch of different ministries associated with us. Your audience might be familiar with Athletes in Action or Family Life or Connecting Streams or Christian Embassy. These are all different forms of our ministry that we all have a similar vision, but we're trying to reach different pockets of society. So, reaching whether it's athletes or reaching the vulnerable, like Connecting Streams, people in prison or people in old age homes. Or for us, it's our target audience is university students.
Yeah. And so, and I love the variety there. Athletes in Action, although I wasn't an athlete in any way, shape, or form, I knew lots of people actually that have been very influenced by Athletes in Action. Cool. And so I appreciate that. But okay, so the university side of things, so you have like chapters or programs, or what is it that you have at every major university?
Yeah, we have chapters at pretty much all universities in Canada. And so they're communities of believers ranging from anywhere from 100 students to maybe just a few. There's a few campuses that maybe will have like 10 students involved. And but we're trying to service them. We have staff spread throughout the country, and they oversee different universities and or maybe several universities in an area, and they will seek to serve the students, minister to them, and gather first-year students into our communities, and then help develop them into leaders and send them out to reach their world.
So yeah, just fill us in even on the specifics of that program, because it's so interesting. In some ways, as youth workers, we send students to all these university campuses, kind of hoping for the best. So sometimes if you don't actually realize, there's probably lots of youth workers that are like, oh, there's an expression of my faith like lived out on some of these campuses. So is it like youth group 2.0? Is it like a small group? Is it like, what is it that, if you're doing something on a campus, what actually is it? It's like a Christian club?
Yeah. So we are registered Christian clubs on these campuses. So we actually go through the student unions and we work with the university to create a religious group on campus. And it'd be similar to, some of our sister organizations like the Navigators or InterVarsity. We're all doing very similar things. Within Power to Change, some people say that leadership development is kind of at our core, although it's maybe it's a bit less intuitive, but we gather first year students and we say, come be involved in a Christ-centered community where you can make friends that will last a lifetime and you can grow in your faith. Like that's our calling to them. And then by the time they hit second year, maybe even earlier than that, we're challenging them and saying like, hey, how can you use the gifts that God's given you to help others people experience that same thing? And so then the second years and the third years, they're leading groups of Bible studies for first years and also leading outreaches to help engage their friends, invite them to explore the Christian faith in different ways. So yeah.
So on an average week, you might have a student participating, like some of the things that we'd offer on our big campuses. There may be what might kind of feel like the Youth Group 2.0 or something. There's a large group gathering, which we call like a weekly meeting, or, every campus and this has their own little flavor of it, where there'd be some learning, some shared, sometimes some teachers that we'd bring in, some prayer, some discussion. Sometimes there's musical worship. That's part of it. But then there's lots of kind of grassroots small things that I think really contribute and make up the community. And yeah, I even look back at my time at university and think like some of my best friends came from that, because they're in like the small group Bible studies. So we encourage every student as kind of a basic entry point to be a part of these. And we often name them not just a Bible study, but we'll name them a discipleship group. And the idea of very activity oriented learning. That's in like a missional small group community. So we'd encourage them to like eat together, be together, live life together, get to know each other's friends, and be in the Word and in prayer together. Some campuses, some clubs would offer like prayer meetings that students can pop into, like Dan mentioned, different outreaches. I'm just really trying to create a community that, we're asking the big questions of life, and it's a welcoming place for others to ask that too. So as we recognize, even as kind of this whole renegotiating faith piece, as students are kind of asking the big questions, and often for the first time leaving home, that they really wrestle with like, hey, is this for me? Do I really want to believe in Christianity anymore? We want to create that environment where those questions are safe and to be asked. And often for the first time, students really are wrestling with those things and really processing them. And I think having a safe space to do so has just really key. I know it was for me.
Yeah, it's incredible. I know for me, and thinking about probably, again, lots of youth workers, the idea that there's somebody at the universities ready to help create that community and create that bridge and still nurture the faith of these students that we care so deeply about, is really encouraging, and actually maybe surprising for lots of folks that are like, oh, I had no idea that that's even possible. So I know towards the end of the episode, we'll fill people in on how to find out where there's, campus ministries and how to get connected, because already I'm sure gears are spinning on like, oh, this is a worthwhile thing to connect our students to, thinking towards, this upcoming fall. Now, Rolf, you mentioned renegotiating faith and that particular study. Would love for you to fill people in a little bit more on what that actually is. I know we've mentioned it on the podcast from time to time, but lots of folks have no idea what that is and why that's kind of important, or why you care so deeply about this particular research project.
Yeah. I think that's, I've been helping out in this sort of one initiative within Power to Change. So I was, spent some time in Asia, was a field staff guide in leadership, and now have just transitioned with a colleague to Anton Lim in this space of working with youth leaders, teachers, camp people on helping kind of create a sending culture. And for us as Power to Change staff to be a welcoming culture. And I think that it really was a lot of this data from the renegotiating faith that, I think really inspired me, and I just recognized like the huge need. There's some just stark statistics, or I guess hopeful. So some of the youth leaders, you might be familiar with the hemorrhaging faith study, which is, the sad reality that students are just leaving the faith, and a key juncture is kind of that transition after youth group. But then what I think really found powerful about the renegotiating faith is the opportunity there, saying that if students have a home connection, that someone that is connecting them to community, that they're actually 4 times more likely to be connected into a Christian community in post-secondary. So that connection piece. And I think it was interesting to note that both kind of field staff actually, and this is kind of an opportunity that was highlighted for us as Power to Change, that there's very little effort to kind of do anything before September 7th or whenever, when students show up, to connect in students. And also for youth group leaders to just say, when their last activity happens in June or whatever, that they're not done, but that they can make those connections. And so I think the renegotiating phase said that only 3 out of 10 youth leaders actually have a plan to send their students and to make those introductions. So then to think, wow, there's many that could develop a plan. And for those who develop a plan, there's 4 times greater likelihood that they're going to land in community. That just seemed like a huge win for me. And it's been exciting, like as I've been working with some different individuals and seeing that begin to happen, and just to see, I mean, there's lots of people working together to make those connections, but when it happens, I think it's just can be such a beautiful transition, and not one to be feared or, one of great, I think, sadness for youth leaders to find out some of the tragic stories of where the youth has ended up, but actually to see youth really flourish, and to see their flourish, and to see their leadership development for a lifetime.
Yeah, so helpful. So I think I want to draw out a couple things. So these 2 research projects that you're mentioning, Hemorrhaging Faith and Renegotiating Faith, for those that are listening, were research particularly done here in Canada, in our country. So if you're listening from afar, I mean, I'm sure there's similar things you can take away. But we were trying to find out, when you have faith as an adolescent, when you have faith as a child, what are the markers that allow you to keep your faith? And can we distinguish, what's actually helpful for carrying on faith into your adult years? And this fascinating thing is that there's this massive transition from grade 12 to university that we of course know. And yet there's really some clear things you can do to build that bridge really seamlessly, so that the faith of somebody in grade 12 can continue on into university. It doesn't have to be dropped. And maybe Dan, you can speak to a little bit of some of the success that you guys have seen, because when you catch students on campuses, I'm sure it's been fun just to notice and see how it allows their faith to continue to grow, that they don't drop out, that, they end up, I'm sure, still getting their faith challenged in different parts of, university life, but like the essential nature of that community that they dive into. What have you been noticing?
Yeah, well, we've just been, I was just telling our team leaders across the country the other day that I've just been so encouraged by some of these stories that we're hearing from various campuses who have first-year students. Like these are the young guys coming in, and they are just absolute rock stars in their faith. So we've been running, for example, alphas, online alphas like crazy across the country. And it's been an awesome opportunity for partnering with other ministries and local churches. But we've seen some of these young students, like there's a young woman at Ryerson who got involved. So this is someone at York, who got involved, and she just she got involved in Power Change. She heard about Alpha. She invited 3 of her friends. They all came, and they loved it so much that they invited their 4th friend to come. And these are she's reaching like 4 of her non-Christian friends just herself, because she's gotten involved in this community that loves the Lord and is empowering her to live out her Christian life. And so things like that are really encouraging. There's another young woman at Ryerson who I was just mistaken with, but she's took it upon herself to text one of her non-Christian friends every Sunday, and she just asks that friend, "How can I pray for you?" I think like someone like her, she's maybe a bit more of an introverted person. And she thinks, "Oh God, how can you use me?" But here she is reaching out to her friend. She said, it was awkward at first, but it has really deepened their relationship. So we hear about all kinds of stories like this of students who are coming in and they got their eyes open and they're looking for opportunities. They're looking for a community to get involved in that can help propel them towards living out their mission of helping others discover who Jesus is too, and they just engage. And so that's just been really encouraging to see.
That's so good. And Rolf, you've seen some big wins, hey?
Yeah, I think I remember during this one call, I guess things that I've been on the other end of it. One story comes to mind maybe of a student named Timmy. So I got to work with this guy. He's a McMaster student engineering. He's on placement right now. And as I was getting to know him, discipling him for a couple of years, we'd meet weekly to talk about life and ministry and his friends. And so then as I kind of got to know him a bit more and ask, well, how did you first get connected to Power to Change? And then he kind of drew a bit of the connections, which helped me realize there is a lot of coming together of people that allowed him to get connected. And so it ended up happening that one of our colleagues, Maddie, who works in our social media department, she had a friend, a Christian teacher in the Beamsville, Grimsby area, so Christian school out there. So she mentioned, mentioned, hey, like, Josh, if you have any students that are going to go to post-secondary that'd be open to Power to Change, like, can we make that connection? And so Timmy was one of those guys coming to Mac. And so at that time, there was a gathering that was run over the summer to introduce Timmy to some post-secondary students who were coming. So Timmy went to that. And so although Timmy was a pretty timid and shy guy, and actually he told me later that he actually had planned to kind of keep his faith, although it was a big part of his young adult life, to keep his faith kind of private. And yet he knew he had this experience with Power to Change. His kind of guidance counselor teacher at school told him he had gone to this event. And so he came to Mac, and then he looked around for us during the club's fair and got connected with Power to Change a little bit and ended up joining a Bible study. Anyways, fast forward a couple years, Timmy is now the president of the McMaster Gospel Choir, which is just such a cool mix of Christians and non-Christians singing amazing music. Timmy's a small group leader within Power to Change, and just like a fun, I don't know, whenever Timmy goes somewhere, like if he says, hey, I'm going to this place, like people just come and gather, just love being kind of with him and connected. And I think, man, like, what would this story have been like if Maddie hadn't reached out to Josh and Josh hadn't gone, and if there wasn't this gathering? And I think, man, the way that Timmy has blessed so many lives, and to think like some of the faith formation that he had in his childhood, there's a good chance that his plan would have happened if he didn't land in Christian community, that he wouldn't have got connected, that he would have kept his faith private. But kind of seeing these different connections come together, then it's just like, wow, that's so cool. And to see Timmy just shine. And yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to happen in his life in the future, to see his faith kind of continue to blossom and to continue.
Yeah, it's so interesting, you guys, for any of us that are investing into the spiritual lives of teenagers, which is our audience, they're obviously in because they're listening to a podcast about doing youth ministry, they're youth workers, and primarily, our audience are the frontline volunteers, the ones that are taking time out of their busy weeks to do this. This isn't their vocation, this isn't their job, and so we're so grateful for them. But one of the things that we're just recognizing is that to do this, we want this to be something that makes a difference long term, that this isn't just while they're in our youth groups that they have a faith, but that their faith transitions and grows up with them. And so I love all these win stories, and I would love for you guys to actually speak now to our youth workers, because we're hearing some of these exciting things. We're hearing a bit about the programs that you guys are doing, and now we're thinking, okay, what should we do as youth workers if we care deeply about our students transitioning to life post high school and carrying their faith with them? What should we do to be helpful with that? What are the markers that you've seen in youth workers that kind of make that connection? Is it all about Power to Change? Do they need to get into a campus group? Like, talk to us about some of the things that we should be doing while we still have them in our youth groups. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Maybe I'll take a first stab at it, Dan, and you can
Sure.
fill it in.
Go for it.
Yeah, I think the one thing is try something. So I think it's encouraging for me to think that only like 3 in 10 youth workers are doing anything. And so I think anything that we do, and I think we're seeing it, there are no like silver bullets. I can't tell you if you do these 6 things, like this is for sure going to happen. And so I think just like lean into it and just create space for that student to ask questions, to really care for them and to know that they are cared for. I mean, I came across this interesting statistic that I was just reading. This is in another study that came out about it's kind of a paradox that this is called the connected generation, and yet there is so much disconnection, like longing for friendship and relationship. So I'd say, yeah, to youth leader, if help them think and anticipate what the change is going to bring, and then help them make connections. So very practically, I mean, maybe you already know of, someone in InterVarsity or Navigators, or have some connection, or you have a sister church that's connected in the city where your student's going. I'd say make that connection for them. Yeah, I was just super encouraged. So a youth pastor, Hartley Russell at People's last year, one thing that I just saw that I think was so cool. So he had, I think it was 7 students that were willing for him to kind of help make those connections. So he actually literally teed up conversations between him, the student, and a youth worker or a student at the university that student was going. So it's like a pre-made friendship and a few months out before going. And I think, man, that was cool. So some practical things, and I think Jeremy, you said we'll throw a few of these in the show notes, but Power to Change specifically, we've got you can go to like p2c.sh/find my campus. And so if the student knows what campus they're going to go to, they can already begin following them on Instagram, seeing their Facebook group, and just kind of reaching out. And so online, they just fill in a quick form, and then like either someone like myself or some students or staff from that campus will reach out to them and say, hey, yeah, you can check this out. And if some students do that even like earlier, there might be opportunities to even just like shadow a discipleship group right now, or to attend. They're just, almost finishing up their semesters right now. So there may be an opportunity to do something. So I'll put that there. And some other practical things, we're doing a little monthly email series. So both for you, the youth leader, and for the grade 12, that we just have some articles like, top things, 3 things that I can avoid, and 7 helpful steps in my transition. So we can offer you some of those things. There are some longer tools. I don't know if you want me to go into that, Jeremy, or maybe
in just a second. I want to make sure people knew, because I know for those of us that are, again, vocational in ministry, sometimes navigators rings a bell for us. But if you don't, people that are listening don't realize, InterVarsity, navigators, there's all sorts of organizations that are caring deeply for university students, that are caring deeply for that really critical time of life. And Power to Change, obviously, is one of the other ones. And I think that's just good to know that you don't have to just graduate students, here in June, and that's the end of what the church offers for them, that the Christian community offers for them, but that there are these other places that are wanting to be helpful. The best case scenario, and I think this is what you've been saying, is that us as youth workers take it upon ourselves to do some of the heavy lifting and the work to build the bridge to those resources and to that help. Because for a teenager that's already navigating this massive shift and change in their world, where they're going and they're starting into their degree, and they're, this is their first time at freedom, and, mom and dad aren't around anymore. They got their room, they got the roommate. Like they're already navigating all sorts of different things. If we would just care deeply about that critical part of their faith and help make sure that we can hold them accountable and connect the dots for them. Ralph, you said way earlier in the conversation that the critical time is in September. So even just to recognize, I think that oftentimes as youth leaders, after graduation, we're like, okay, they're done. That's the end. But I think what you're saying is that we actually need, if we have any kind of relational equity, to carry that through till, is there a particular time, like in the fall, that you would say is the...
Yeah, Renegotiating Faith actually had a specific saying that 80% of students who do get involved got connected in their first 4 weeks. So really the first 4 weeks is really key. Now I do appreciate like the life of a youth worker, like the first 4 weeks are like just nuts, right? Like trying to get your own programming, welcoming new students. But something hit me earlier this year. I'm coaching also the students at the University of Western Ontario, and one of the Reese, the president there, I asked him about highlights or special gifts. Anyways, what he mentioned was that his pastor had wrote him a letter when he was in first year, and he's like, I still have that letter, and he showed me the letter it's like, and I was like, man, this was just like a letter, like just like the pastor just kind of banged out and wrote to him, but man, he's like read that multiple times, and that was just like, that was in his first month, and like he had moved into residence, and it was just like a really difficult time for him. And I think, man, words of affirmation, reminding, and I think of, Paul saying like fan into flame, the gift, like as Paul talks to Timothy, and some of those kind of empowering and building up messages. And so I'd say, even if like, you might think, oh, I don't have time, even a small thing, a note to reach out, a voicemail, a little video message, like anything to bridge that gap, to think that your influence was huge and you had lots of FaceTime perhaps during those few years when they were in high school or during their gap year. But now, even though you're not as much present, like even small things to reconnect with that student, to encourage them, to inspire, to bridge that gap as they kind of build roots, is just huge. And so I think even the small things that you do, and I'd say within those 4 weeks, I don't know if you can just calendar something or put a little note for yourself and think, oh yeah, these 7 students, I'm just going to bang out a short note to them or what have you. Like, it is going to make an impact. It really does.
I was just talking this last week, and then Dan, jump in with Justin, youth pastor that I'm working with, and we're having a great time strategizing on some of this stuff. Just thinking about if there's a way to actually take grade 12 small group leaders and say, hey, can you not take a new group in the fall? Can your ministry actually just extend until the end of September?
So cool.
So that maybe even you show up to the same place that you would lead the small group of your grade 12 students, you be in that place, but when you show up, you take those few hours and use those few hours on a Wednesday night or whatever it is to write those notes, to make those phone calls, to look up the different campus organization groups, the churches in the town, whatever it might be, because building that bridge for students is essential at that time. So go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, well, I just want to say, Rolf, I think is hitting the nail on the head. Regarding the most important thing that people can do is just take initiative in some way, shape, or form. And I love that letter writing idea. I'll just also add that as Renegotiating Faith mentioned that the first 4 weeks or so is most important. I think it's really important that we're having this conversation right now. Like, we had an event about 2 weeks ago where we rallied all of our staff across Canada to intentionally build, we gave them space to and vision to go and reach out to pastors in their areas so that they can start connecting with those grade 12 graduating students now, because honestly, we don't know what September is going to hold. The pandemic might still be around. We might be in a hybrid sort of online and face-to-face ministry. We don't know what's going to hold. So it's really important that we're having these conversations now. And also just add too, when it comes to just working together with other organizations, whether it's a church or whether it's InterVarsity or whether it's the Navigators, as Power Change, I'll just say we have a kingdom mindset. And so we're not in competition with you trying to steal your grade 12 students. We're not in competition with the other ministries trying to steal their students. So glad you said that, Dan. Yeah. We have a kingdom mindset. So and this is so much of what Rolf is doing with the next initiative in Power to Change is we want to bless students to get involved in a Christian community, regardless of what it is on their campus. And a lot of the partnerships we've been doing is through Alpha. So maybe a special calling too that I'll throw in as well is if any of you youth pastors or youth workers know of any grade 12 students who've been running Alpha on your camp or in your high schools, we would love to have you join us in Power to Change and to work together with other ministries as well to run Alpha in some way, shape, or form on our universities to reach university students for Jesus.
Maybe guys, I can do a shift of the direction or just even the where we're looking from. So we've been talking about what happens when you send a student to a new town. I would love for you guys just to talk for a moment on what does it mean to receive students in your own town for a second. Because Dan, you work with with all these different campus groups. What's the connection like to local ministries in each of these towns? Are there wins? Is Power to Change the end of the road, or how does it work in terms of getting people connected into Christian community?
Yeah, well, when people contact us, we try to have the initiative to follow them up, and Rolf is constantly hounding me and hounding our staff to be like, hey, you got to make these connections, and so we're trying to really hammer that into our staff and our student leaders as well to hey, let's follow up with them. If they're not answering their phone the first time, make the second phone call, and because these are people who have indicated that we collect names of people who indicate hey, I want to get connected on campus, and so. Often we reach out to them personally as Power to Change, but they're welcome to get involved in another ministry if that better suits them.
And I guess I was meaning to if there's if I have a university in my town, maybe I should be looking at, is there a Power to Change something happening in my town at my university? Is there a way to be more helpful? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's great you mentioned. I know. Often in the first large group meeting, I quickly make sure a point to mention hey, this is a campus group on campus. This is not your local church. And so I know that, I think historically, sometimes for some students functionally, perhaps especially some of the student leaders who spend lots of hours within their kind of campus group bubble, may be less connected to their local church, but we really strongly reinforce with our students that get connected to your local church. And so I think there's a huge opportunity. I think of some of our local pastors that just have a lot of, they've been a welcoming space for incoming students. So I think of, local church here. One of the things they would, in September, October, I think once a month they'd have a welcome student lunch, and they'd have a little, I think they had even the first week they had kind of a gift package for students, just like practical stuff like a toothbrush and this and that. But it's been so neat to see. And even just talking to Dave Steimers here locally, who's kind of seen the ebb and flow and been working. It's one of our churches that's closer to the campus here, but just seeing the vitality that students bring to his local group. And he says like, the few weeks in August, it's kind of slow. And then September, and it's this exciting space where students, so there's a lot of life, I think, that these young adults can bring. And I think, there's really a lot of sharp leaders. And I'm just amazed sometimes when I think of like some of the stuff that students the initiative that they're taking in their residence to proclaim Christ. And I think for a local church leader to think like, hey, what roles, opportunities, what voice can they have in the local church? And I think, there's life, there's vitality, there's hope, initiative, but there's also a desire for belonging. And so if the local church can find any ways to, offer a meal or a connection or a relationship or to remember a student's name, these things are just so meaningful.
Dan, anything else or anything else, even just more broadly, as we were coming towards the end here, just thinking about helping students transition to life post high school?
I'm not sure if I have anything else to add, to be honest.
That's totally fine. That's totally fine.
Sorry, I can't think of anything.
Yeah, no, that's good. And you guys have got just such a great set of tools that you guys have already developed. I love the fact that there's, again, campus ministries all across the country. And so it might be the right time for one of you guys just to fill people in on what are some next steps. So there's youth workers who need to dig in a little bit more to what you guys offer. There's some youth workers that need to connect students even right now to some of the works that you're doing. Would love for you to fill in, and we'll link all this stuff in the show notes, but I know you've got a lot of stuff kind of coming up even in the next couple of weeks.
Maybe I'll just mention a few of the tools, Dan, and then maybe Dan, if you want to mention a couple of the webinars that want to offer. But so I think like what we're just saying is like, just try something like, and I'd love for us to be in discussion with you, to be learning. And like, I remember even just meeting with a high school teacher, I was going to mention this, we kind of stumbled on, I think, the value of bringing alumni back to share their story. So just quick story here. Phil, that's right, Jeremy. So we're at this call, and so me and Anton, we got our like game face on. We're gonna this presentation for these grade 12s to so by the way, any of your local campus workers would love to just pop into your youth group and share for a few minutes about the transition. Anyway, so Anton and I are doing this, and then as part of it, we're like, I think it would really good to get an alumni, but we couldn't like find one and get one. And he's like, down to the wire, we finally get this girl to come. She's landscaping, and so last minute she jumps into the Zoom call. She's like literally eating her sandwich and she's got her phone resting on the dashboard of the car. But anyways, all of a sudden she starts talking, and all the grade 12s, they're all on the screen. I can all see them. All of a sudden their faces are like totally engaged. And so they're listening to this girl. And as she shared her story, cause they all knew her, right? Like I think when you're 1 year younger, 2 years younger, you always know like the upper year. So they're listening to her. And as she shared her story and, some of the challenges, and anyways, I just think it's a huge win. If you can get your alumni to come back and people who've wrestled through some stuff and can come back and share those stories, that was like by far more impactful than I think all the like pro tips and stuff that Anton and I can give. So if you can even just tee that up, it's not even your voice that's having the influence, but it's someone who is like, totally in the student's shoes. So I think that's a huge win. Again, practically I mentioned like the website, you can go on right there and they can start like following us, getting connected to their campus. If they don't know, because I know June 2nd, they're making the decision to say which campus. So if they don't know yet, they can just fill in the general one. And then we have an email stream and some different ways to connect to them. A couple tools that I'll mention, and Jeremy, I'm glad that you brought up or kind of reinforcing the idea of connecting with students even after they leave youth group. And so there's a mentorship resource, and I'll include that there. We've just kind of outlined some questions that if you can tee up kind of a mentor or someone just to process with them, we just have some really loose, simple kind of questions by month. And there's even some questions for like, September, October afterwards and over the summer. So that would be one thing. And a thing I'm pretty pumped about, a donor approached us. He's got a foundation with the Next Steps, the Power to Change Next Steps Scholarship. So I think this is pretty cool. So there's a number of applications in already, basically just wanting to bless and to encourage students and to say, hey, think about your transition. And so there's just a brief scholarship. It's not necessary. Anyone can enter. And so they, fill in, talk a little bit about their transition, what they hope to see happen in university. And so we're hoping to bless a bunch of students. So we have 19 awards to give away. We're just piloting it this year in Ontario for so students heading to schools in Ontario. Out west is the Impact Award, and so that's they're actually giving money to the local church to send their students. So 604 Network's been a big part of helping make that happen. But that's another kind of fun thing. And then Dan, maybe I can. One other thing I'll say: shift enter. So we recognize that some of you are in contexts where you don't have a whole group of grade 12s who are graduating, or maybe only one person is heading to post-secondary and the rest are going to different spaces. That we piloted this video, and we hope to expand it to a 7-part series. But the first part, just you hear from a mentor, you hear from a student graduating. And so it's a guided discussion that you as a youth leader can use with your youth. And so if you have a bunch of youth, you can kind of stop and pick and choose what sections. There's some time to be in the Bible and in the Word together. And you can, if there's only one or two of you in that discussion, then you can kind of see how some of the other students are responding. So we'll include those in the notes there as well. But a kind of a guided conversation as you pull some of your students together and take some time to process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we want to start making those connections between graduating students and our students on campuses and staff across Canada now. We want to, so we have a webinar for youth leaders coming up on April 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern. We'd love to see you guys out to that. We'd also have an event on April 30th, a webinar, 8:30 p.m. Friday evening. And what that we're hoping to be is a live connection between you, your students, and our involved students. So we have involved students across Canada who are ready and wanting to meet incoming first years now, and they love to become friends with them. Tell them maybe even we can hook them up so they can meet people in their within their major that they'll be entering into. We've got a lot of different students in various majors, and they'd love to make a connection with your grade 12 students. So that's an invitation to grade 12 students plus the youth workers. You're welcome to come together. Throw in a parent or two, maybe. I don't know. Maybe they don't want them there, but yeah, you're welcome to come to that.
That's great. Well, thank you guys so much for your time today and for all those resources. Those are in the show notes, and I know that will serve our folks really well, and looking forward to finding all sorts of other ways that we can support those that are sending students into the post-secondary world, and grateful for the work that you guys are doing as part of that. So thanks so much.
Yeah, it's great.
Jeremy. This is fun.
All right, everybody, before you go, I want to make sure you know that we're also grateful to today's other sponsor, Trinity Western University, a wonderful school that's been partnered with us for a very long time. And as you think about where to send students and how do you help them so that they don't graduate from their faith when they graduate high school, Trinity Western would love to partner with you in that regard, because they have got an incredible list of programs, all sorts of great market-driven degrees that students can engage in from a university perspective, but that also their mission is to develop godly Christian leaders. And so they're going to care deeply about the faith of any student that ends up at their university. And so certainly that's a great spot that you can highlight for your teenagers if they haven't picked for this year. But certainly if you think about your grade 11, your grade 10s, find all sorts of information at twu.ca and make sure that your teenagers know about this incredible opportunity to learn at a high level academically while not sacrificing anything as it comes to their faith formation, and be on a campus that is going to look out for that as well. So we're grateful for Trinity Western University. We'll see you all back here next week for another episode of the Youth Ministry Team Podcast.